the next question is to do with that. I'm going to pose it to Alex. Would it be appropriate for the students for some of the years anyway, to pick the books on the reading list that other students would pick from as opposed to teachers and staff?
I think this would definitely be a good idea, because the whole point to summer reading is to have the students read over the summer. And when the staff picks the books, there is less of a chance that students will read, because the students may not be interested in the topics that the staff picked. So when other students choose the book, kids get to experience what their peers are enjoying, and they get to interact with their peers and share their experiences. So it really is a good idea for students to pick the books during the year, because students do usually end up finding good reading choices.
Would you guys say that the books that the students might put on the list would be on the same reading level maybe that the teachers and staff would put on there? Is that a distinction that's worth making, or no?
I think so. I think the students would pick similar books to the teachers, because the teachers did choose a lot of books that I feel that students would put on the reading list, and such as Twilight, for example. Students like that book, and teachers know that, and teachers acknowledge that, and they will put that on the reading list because they know that students will read it. So I think it's a good idea either way. Either way, I think the books would be very similar.
I would be hesitant to allow students to make the list, just because you may find that some students are picking books they've already read, so they don't have to read an additional book during the summer. Plus, again, like Mass was saying, how do you make sure that the books are an appropriate level for students to challenge themselves over the summer?
I think maybe the best compromise for that would be for the students to suggest books, and then faculty to make sure that they are appropriate for their grade level.
I think if the students that chose the books were leading the discussions, it would kind of eliminate the problem of picking books that they've already read, because they're not pretending that they haven't read it. They're having the different role of leading the discussion.
It's an interesting idea. Kelsey, do you perceive the process and the system that juniors and seniors went through this year, that is this whole book talk discussion-based program, to be an improvement over what you've experienced in the past?
I would most definitely say it's an improvement, because you're not only, again, like I've been saying, digging deeper into the book and analyzing it, you're also experiencing, a leisure book instead of reading something you're forced to read over the summer. And it's a better way to start off the year with this book discussion, which I know that there was a lot of attempt to make it seem more fun with the munchkins and stuff, than to start off with an essay. And I've heard the teachers complain on how horrible the summer essays are to read. So I think it's definitely more pleasant and it's an improvement, because it helps students understand the books better.
Yeah, students are going to learn a lot more from discussion than essay, because they get that exposure to others' viewpoints. So when you do take students and put them in a group and have them analyze the book, they are more willing to than in an essay, because they have the chance to have their viewpoint heard without being afraid that something they might say is wrong or will be graded.
Yeah, and overall, I feel like the whole process of talking with a class kind of serves the same process as writing an essay, if you think about it, because it gives you enough insight on the book. Like, if you're reading a book by yourself, I feel like if you don't read a book with pencils and sticky notes, then you won't really see all the detail if you only read it through once. But if you talk with a whole class, you'll see what other people have to say, and it kind of serves the same purpose as an essay. It teaches you the same amount, and it teaches you how to look for more detail and how other people may perceive a different point than you.
I'll pose this last question to the entire group. Maybe you can all go around and say, one thing that you think might be a good thing to add to the program, or whether we should be going back to the more essay-guided program. So is there anything that you think could be improved upon in this system?
I think so. I think we should be graded on our discussions. I know that sounds scary, but that's a way to improve the way people read, I guess. You have to make sure people are actually reading the book, because I feel like too many people got away with not reading it and pretending that they read it, or just simply admitting not to reading it and not doing anything about it. And I don't think that's a positive change if you're not going to read the book. So I think in some way you should be loosely graded on the way you discuss the book in class. But that's it.
Yeah, I think Natalie's idea is a good idea. I think more grading on participation, like she said, than an essay would be a good way to make sure all students interact in the classroom discussions, because in my experience, only a handful of students in my group interacted, and that kind of left the others out. And I think that would be definitely a good way, as well as letting students pick the books, because I felt when I went to pick my summer reading book that there weren't really a lot of choices that I had an interest in reading. So that kind of made the summer reading still more of a chore than a fun thing to do.
I agree with both of those things, and I also think it would help if we didn't limit the number of students that could sign up for each book, because although it really worked out for me, the book, I wanted to read 2 books before the one that I chose, and I ended up really liking the one that I picked, but I was kind of disappointed that I didn't get to read my first 2 choices, just because the list was full.
I agree. I think that's a good idea too. And going back to the assessment, I agree that the class discussion should be graded in some form, and I also think there maybe should be an additional short answer, not an essay, but maybe a short answer so you can evaluate whether they understood the plot and could remember the plot, as well as, you know, these deeper literary terms.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think an essay is the best form, but maybe a short answer.
Just to make it less standard, I guess.
Easy way to assess, that they've actually read the book.
Yeah.
And on that statement, we will have to close our discussion. I want to thank our panelists for sharing their thoughts and opinions about this important idea. Perhaps our discussion will provide stimuli for enriching and improving our summer reading. On behalf of Alex, Kelsey, Caroline, and Natalie, I thank you for joining us and wish you all well. Hope you come back to see the next segment of the Masuk Report. Thank you.